All right, guys. Good afternoon. We are back. Welcome po sa mga bagong nanonood, and hopefully you guys are doing well, and hopefully nakapag-prepare po kayo sa yung mga kababayan natin sa Luzon, Northern Luzon, Central Luzon, and sa NCR. You know, this itong bagyong paparating, it's hindi po biro ito, no? It's a massive super typhoon sa Pacific, and it's scheduled to make landfall, if not already is making landfall currently right now sa Pilipinas. Yung pamilya ko po is taga Luzon, taga Central and Northern Luzon, so hopefully kayo po ay nakahanda. Pre-repair nyo po yung mga gamit nyo, tsaka don't risk your life just to save a few material things. So yun po, this new video, we're gonna tackle a few new topics that came about sa nakaraang mga 24 to 48 hours. And we're going to discuss, number one, the ongoing issue with yung nangyayari po sa Cebu, and with this new typhoon that's coming, yung mga preparations po. And maybe I could shed some light on how to prepare for these types of events from my perspective, from all angles, from a professional standpoint and from a citizen standpoint, because I'm not an expert, but I do have some experience, being that I was in the military for a number of years, and meron pong konting, and I'm also kind of an enthusiast of like yung mga parang preppers na tinatawag natin, prepping community. So importante po na maging ready po tayo para, so to speak, hindi tayo mahuli na with our pants down to our ankles. Yung parang hindi tayo mahuli, like it's better to be prepared than to react na kung kailan too late na. Okay, and maybe on a separate video, I'm gonna record this like continuously, and maybe I'll split it into two. Yung nangyayaring sinabi ni Ombudsman Remulla na may ICC warrant of arrest daw po si Bato de la Rosa. So we'll take on those two things, and also I'm gonna be curious. I want to voice my opinion on this video that I saw from Mr. Christian Esguerra, one of my favorite pundits right now, journalists and pundits. Na kasama niya si Professor Cielo Magno sa Singapore, talking to our fellow Filipinos there, OFWs, and mga Pilipino po na nag-migrate na doon, with their opinion on how the country is being run to the ground, so to speak. So yun po, we're gonna do this live. I'm going to bring up some pages dito po sa ating screen, na makikita nyo po yung mga video na napanood ko, tsaka konting information, and maybe I could bring up some items that are important to this conversation. Okay, so we're going to now switch to a different screen here, and hopefully makita nyo po ng maayos, and hopefully if you guys like this new layout, let me know, because I kind of worked on this a little bit. So yan po, this is our new layout, and you can see on the left side of your screen is a kind of screen capture po ng Pag-asa weather station or weather website of where Typhoon, ano pangalan ito, Uwan, or Typhoon Uwan, or Fengwang, the international name, Fengwang, and Uwan for the Philippines. As you can see, ang laki po nito. It's huge, it's gigantic. It's almost as big as, Luzon and parts of Visayas, yung red spot. And if you look at the index dito po sa upper left, the colors indicate like yung parang signal level. So one is like the outer edge of the typhoon. Yan pong signal number 1. And as you get closer to the eye of the storm, is palala po ng palala yung winds and sustained winds and rainfall. So it could sabi po nila, it could reach potentially up to signal number 5 in some areas. So this is in terms of like sustained winds, parang 200 kmph, kilometers per hour yata yung ano, yung pong mga hangin at ulan na dinadala niya. So this is really devastating. So you need to be really prepared about this. So we're gonna go back to what happened before we discuss, yung preparedness aspect of this. We're gonna go back to what happened in Cebu, just to recap what transpired and what is currently the status of what's going on. So, President Marcos went back and did his assessment along with his cabinet members, sila Secretary Dizon and yung mga DSWD secretaries and a bunch of his staff or secretaries or cabinet members. And they did an assessment, and it seems like they are doing what is necessary for the people of Cebu, of Talisay, to make sure na makabangon sila. He did promise some funds to be released, like 5,000 to 10,000 pesos of funds for families if you're partially or totally damaged yung bahay nyo po. So he did authorize the release of those funds, and I'm sure DSWD is coordinating with other agencies to provide help and food, shelter, and medicines, things of that nature para po sa mga mamamayan na nasalanta. And there's a lot of logistics involved with this type of operation, and I don't envy it. I mean, during my time po sa military, we did some sort of like humanitarian missions that parang pumunta kami sa mga disaster prone areas and we did our part. But it's totally different from coming from like a Western countries perspective, kasi po we had the capability to help. We had the funds, we had the manpower, the resources to help. And I'm sure the Philippines does too, pero parang you can only take so much, like parang wave after wave of typhoons, hurricanes, lindol, volcano eruptions, even though wala pa pong nasasalanta ng bulkan. But, the earthquakes and stuff, ang hirap pong mag-readjust because it just keeps coming. Ang hirap pong maging consistent sa pagbibigay ng tulong. And, I really admired the local officials who are coordinating and helping with this effort. And, unfortunately, along with this type of operation of this type of magnitude, with these types of funds, along with that comes with, unfortunately, there might be some corruption involved, and it's inevitable because it's every man for himself in these areas. So hopefully that's not happening, but we got to be realistic. And to piggyback from my previous video about the celebrity engineer that went that built this development that is partially being blamed of what happened, of how yung effect niya sa pagbaha sa baba. There's still no word from this person, and it seems like, I'm not sure if this is confirmed, but it seems like he left. He and his wife. Not sure if the kids are also with them. Probably not, but it seems like they were spotted leaving. I'm not sure if this is like an official testament or official confirmation that he left. I don't know where to. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what the company says, and we'll just go from there. But I know somebody needs to be held accountable, whether it's him or other companies or that giant quarry that's going on the northern west part of that area. So yun lang po. And so just to go back to the current situation where this massive hurricane is coming towards Luzon, kailangan pong maging vigilant. But we're back. So going back to what's going on right now with this massive storm that's coming, this is hindi na po bago ito eh. Hindi na po bago tong pagsalanta ng mga bagyo sa atin. Pero for some reason or for whatever reason, palakas po ng palakas yung yung mga bagyong dumarating. You know, when I was living back in sa Luzon, back in from the late 80s to the 90s until the early 2000s, um, it's rare that we get like a typhoon that's signal number 3. You know, signal number 3 was like parang catastrophic level na yun para sa atin back then. And correct me if I'm wrong. Kung meron pong mga nakakaalam dyan sa audience natin, if you're old enough to remember these times, meron po bang mga dumarating sa atin na mga category or signal number 4 or 5? Which seems like what's going on right now. Paki-confirm lang po. But anyway, you could see the path of the typhoon. You know, if this is live, then kung live po ito po yung current na analysis ng ng typhoon. So the eye of the storm is supposed to pass, you know, towards Baguio, right here. It's supposed to pass. It's in trajectory yun po is pa north, and it's gonna make a right turn towards Japan or Taiwan, pa ganyan po. So tatamaan din po yung mga karatig na bansa sa atin. And because of how massive it is, because of the size po, you know, NCR, Central Luzon, Northern Luzon is also going to be affected. So meron po mga flood-prone areas din po dyan, especially sa Manila. Mag-ingat na po kayo dyan. So what I want to discuss, so to speak, is yung disaster preparedness plan po natin. You know, hindi na po bago sa atin to eh. Like, it's always gonna happen. But I want to know what everybody is doing as far as like being prepared. Are you guys prepared for these types of events? Because, you know, ang kasabihan po is, you know, plan for the worst, hope for the best. Hope that hindi kayo ma-devastate ng kalamidad. But you have to be ready. Kailangan po niyong mag-plan ahead of time. Hindi po natin sinasabi na kailangan yung maggumastos ng napakaraming pera, or you need to do, you know, months and months of planning in advance. But kasi hindi naman po talaga realistic yun for a majority of our countrymen. Number one, financially, medyo it's a little tough to be super prepared or fully prepared for these types of events. But you can do a little part because ang ini-invest nyo po is oras. You're investing in time to save yourself and your families and your possibly your possessions. Kung if you do it correctly, you know, you need to really prioritize your safety in these times, because aanihin mo yung mga gamit mo kung if something happens to you or your loved ones, you know. So let's start with some basics. So, you know, yung sinasabing the 3-3-3 rule is you cannot survive without 3 minutes of oxygen, 3 days of water, and 3 weeks of food. So from a very basic standpoint, and we can elaborate on each aspect. And madami pong mga branches ito eh. Like you could really go down a rabbit hole as far as like kung paano po mag-prepare, on how to prep for any kind of like contingency. So yung first one is the 3 minutes of air. So this is from a survival standpoint. You know, everybody knows you cannot survive if you don't without 3 minutes of air. So for some people, that's not even, that 3 minutes is already way too long. You know, most people, elderly, people with disabilities, they're not going to survive within 30 seconds of air. You know, if you are caught in a storm surge, like the people in Cebu, or if the slow rise of water catches you and hindi ka naka-escape po ng sa bubong ng bahay nyo, or you didn't plan accordingly and you disregarded the evacuation notices, That's an immediate threat of life. Third one is water. So you can't survive without 3 days worth of water. So, ang katawan natin, very resilient po yan, pero you can go weeks, you can go up to 3 weeks without food realistically. And, your body is gonna burn up the reserves, yung mga fats po nyo. Initially, sugars and fats is gonna burn up first, and then eventually yung muscle nyo. So that's why you see some people who are starving, they become macerated, something like that. Yung naging butot balat na po sila kasi huli pong kinakain ng katawan for energy to survive is yung muscle po. But initially it will burn as much sugars and fat that's in your body. Mga reserves po yan. Fat is reserves. That's why importante din po yung proper diet po natin. But as far as water is concerned, pag ihi lang po kayo ng ihi at hindi niyo po nire-replenish yung tubig niyo or pinapawis niyo, in-evaporate niyo lang po yung tubig sa katawan niyo without replenishing it, your blood eventually becomes like super thick. Para na po siyang malapat na putik na hindi na po dumadaloy sa mga veins and arteries niyo. And the heart eventually, cannot push that super viscous, super thick na fluid throughout the body, and eventually the heart gives up. It's working too hard. Napapagod din po ang puso. Likes. But anyway, so yun po yung basics. So how can you prepare for those types of events, for those three points that I pointed out? So in terms of like air, it seems simple, but you need to have a plan to evade the potential to be caught in a disaster where like a flood or a massive storm surge would occur. So kailangan meron na po kayong plan kung if you're not going to be leaving your area, you need to have a location to evacuate to, whether it's a church, whether it's a building, yung munisipyo nyo. Most of those buildings are made out of cement, and if your house is made of cement, make sure meron po kayong proper way to get up above where you're supposed to be. And mag-stockpile na po kayo ng kailangan nyo doon, because you could be stuck there for hours, if not days, or even possibly weeks. In some cases, there have been instances where people were stuck for like a week or 2 weeks above their roof in the scorching sun, waiting to be rescued because hindi sila makababa because the water has not subsided. So parang pre-staging po ng mga gamit nyo, pre-staging ng mga life support systems nyo. And we're not talking super technical here, just basic. Mag-ipon kayo ng mga 5-gallon jugs of water, mga 3, 4, 5, how many you can afford to bring up to your roof or sa kisame nyo. And then also have like mga dilata, mga instant noodles, a way to start heating up some food kung meron kayong shilane na may portable na burner. And then if you're doing it above, make sure meron kayong proper insulation para hindi po, of course, hindi masunog yung bahay, But pre-stage your stuff. Pre-stage yung mga valuables po ninyo. Yung mga, of course, yung mga finances nyo, documents, like birth certificates and whatnot, IDs, kailangan po yun. You don't want to lose that kung kailan hinahanap po ng mga gustong tumulong sa inyo yung information, you need to have that available right away. So, yung mga mga pera, mga small valuables, kailangan nyo pong iakyat nyo po lahat yan. And have like a way to shelter underneath. Kasi once dumana po tong bagyo and you're exposed, make sure you are protected from the sun, because you can dehydrate very quickly from the scorching sun after like a typhoon. Excuse me lang po. And then, so going back to that, what else can you guys prepare for? Let's think about, saan na ba tayo? So, yung clothing po nyo, at night, even though wala na pong araw, it can get really cold, especially kung basa po kayo. You could have hypothermia. So make sure you have layers of clothes na dry. Ilagay niyo po sa supot yung mga dry na damit niyo, or kung meron kayong maleta, lagay niyo sa maleta, balutin niyo po yung maleta para hindi po ma-expose sa basa yung gamit ninyo. And that would really prepare you for when the weather permits na makapagpalit kayo ng damit, and also have a way to keep warm. Mga blankets, stuff like that. Importante po ito. Like, especially if you have kids. Kids and the elderly and the sick are the first ones to really deteriorate in these types of situations, and ayaw po natin yan. And then all of this is while you're waiting for rescue. And while you're waiting for rescue, that's when, where you have to think about where are you guys going to go. So sa evacuation centers, sa mga barangay halls, sa mga municipal gyms, mga ganun po. You guys are you're gonna stage there for a while. Kung hindi po siya na nasalanta, or kung hindi po siya nagiba or nabaha din. So think about an escape plan as far as where to go. Unfortunately, this is so massive. Parang if you want to evacuate, like, where the question is, saan po kayo mag-evacuate, like, ahead of time? Let's say you have a day's notice, or you have a day in advance to leave. Saan po kayo pupunta? Yun ang pong kailangan yung isipin. If you have family members who live above ground, above at higher elevations, let's say nakatira sila sa may medyo mabundok na lugar, pwede po kayong makiusap na magstay doon for a few days. Bring the bare minimum of items, because no items in your house is worth your life. Kaya dalhin nyo lang po yung kaya nyong bitbitin. You don't have to bring a TV or yung rice cooker nyo. No, you could survive with very, very minimum. And if you're questioning why I'm telling you this, is because I've done it. In our life in the military, we carry our house on our backs when you're with infantry. So self-sustaining po kami. Like, we have everything we need in this giant backpack that we carry. Andun na po yung damit namin, pagkain namin, way to sleep, sleeping system namin, andun na. So it's not a big deal. Like, the thing about Filipinos is we're very resilient, and we can always rebuild, because that's just our culture. We've gone through multiple wars and multiple calamities, and we always tend to weather the storm, parang, so to speak, no pun intended po. Lagi po tayong nagso-survive. So without elaborating too much, what are the other items you could take with you above ground, above your house, to make sure that you are prepared? Pretty much, ang only worry nyo lang po pag mga ganitong sitwasyon is food and water lang po talaga. So, magdala po kayo ng mga cutlery, mga baso, mga ways to boil water in case na maubusan na po kayo ng tubig. Important. It's super important. So bring what you can, and stage what you can above your area. If you live in a second floor house and meron kayong balkonahe, lagay niyo po lahat doon. Put everything by the balcony, and hopefully hindi umabot po yung storm surge or yung baha. At hopefully your house is strong enough to survive these typhoon winds. It's critical. And along with these winds comes a lot of danger. Yung mga debris po na lumilipad. So make sure you're not, if you have windows na may mga salamin like jalousie, make sure lagyan niyo po ng plywood yung mga windows nyo we say it's like boarding up. Lagyan niyo po ng mga board yung mga bintana nyo, because it could shatter, and kung malapit yung kama nyo sa sa mga ganyan, pwede po kayo masugat and you could get infection. A lot of things could happen. And going back to infection, make sure meron kayong stock na mga medicines. Kung meron kayong mga maintenance medications, make sure you have at least 30 days supply. Because there might be a chance that your local pharmacy is going to be destroyed. There's a chance that medicines might not reach to you because of broken bridges, because of broken roads. Yung resupply po ng mga drugs to your local pharmacies might not reach you guys in the meantime. So make sure meron po kayong 30-day supplies of every single medication na tinitake nyo on a daily basis. I cannot stress that enough. Kung high blood po kayo, kung diabetic po kayo, it's a matter of life and death. Hindi man kayo tinamaan hindi man kayo na apektuhan ng bagyo or ng whatever calamity, pero yung gamot nyo, yung supply ng gamot nyo, that could really make a huge difference as far as like yung survival po ninyo. Okay, so medications, make sure you have that. If you're asthmatic and you rely on oxygen, kailangan meron kayong backup na oxygen tank. Because guaranteed, if people are going to be going to the hospitals, people who are going to get hurt, kakailanganin po nila ito. Guaranteed. Oxygen is going to run short, and just because of our healthcare system sa Pilipinas, we cannot completely rely on government assistance. Kung di nyo po napapansin, as much as I admire the government trying to help, they really just help at the bare minimum. Hindi po sila nag above and beyond. And unfortunately, it's because of it all comes back to the system of corruption that's going on. So it's very important po na maging handa po tayo on our own, because we cannot rely on anyone, sa totoo lang. In the type of country that we live in, that our fellow citizens live in, we cannot rely on the government all the time. Kasi if we're always relying on them, then they could also put you guys in danger. Yun lang po. That's my own opinion. Just being realistic. So let's move forward. Saan na ba tayo? So 3 days of water. So at least for every person nga pala, for every person of your household, you should have at least on a rough estimate, you should have at least a few gallons of water per person per day. So kung kukwentahin nyo po yun, kung a family of 5 po kayo, gagamit po kayo siguro ng mga at least 3 to 5 gallons per person, so mga 15 gallons. But you could ration that naman eh. Let's just say isang 5-gallon jug per person. Yun pong ilaan nyo para sa isa't isa, for each family member, for drinking, for food, and for basic hygiene. Importante po yung hygiene para hindi po kayo ma-infection. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, just to give some context sa medical side, I'm a combat medic. So I was a medic, and I also continued my line of work sa medical field. And part of my duties in the military was actually PrevMed, so preventive medicine. So we educate and implement policies for when I was in the military. I was with the U.S. Marine Corps. Well, I'm in the U.S. Navy, but I was assigned to the Marine Corps as a combat medic. So PrevMed, kami po nagsiset up ng base namin, forward ng FOB namin, forward operating base. Kahit saan kami sa mundo. We could be in the middle of the desert, we can be on a base, we can be in the middle of the jungle. Meron po kami mga policies to implement these types of these types of scenarios. So we try to make sure na hygienic yung lugar namin, na hindi magkaroon ng mga infection yung mga tao namin, hindi sila magkasakit. So there's a lot of logistics, medical logistics that goes on when planning to move from one area to another with 3,000 people, 3,000 Marines. Hindi po madali yung trabahong yun. But it has to be done to prevent any kind of medical issues, because kung 50% of our battalion gets infected or gets sick, then we can't fight. And it's important to be, everybody has to be 100% for the fight. So to relate that to like a family situation, kailangan pong maging prepared ahead of time and make sure every aspect of your life, kung walang bagyo, naliligo po kayo, nag-hygiene po kayo, or you're eating, you're boiling your water, etc., etc. In terms of disasters, kailangan din po ninyo na na maging ready. Of course, hygiene might not be possible if nasira yung bahay nyo or kung walang tubig na dumadaloy. So you need to do the bare minimum. In terms of like, as far as hygiene, you could brush your teeth, you could take a rag or a bimpo and just, do like a sponge bath, yung mga ganun lang po. Just to keep some level of hygiene going on para po for your own morale na rin po. And then going to food, 3 weeks of food, as long as you have a decent supply of canned goods and ramen or rice, you should be okay. The first few days, if not longer. If it does go longer, if you're in a situation where there is no help coming, then that's when you have to think about rationing. Kung napanood niyo po yung movie na The Martian, si Matt Damon, he had like a few months worth of food na niration niya, and he made it last for, I think a few years bago siya pinikap. Now, that is a fictional movie, pero that's what yung parang picture that I'm trying to talk about is how he rationed food. So instead of eating 3 times per day, baka 2 beses lang kayo kakain, or maybe 1 beses lang, just to have some energy for you to survive the night or survive the day until help comes. And then, hopefully it doesn't come to that, but if it does, then you're well prepared. Okay. Again, this is just a hypothetical situation. You're just preparing for the worst, but you're hoping for the best. And majority of the time po naman is na it doesn't come to this type of situation, but what I'm painting is the worst case scenario, and what I'm trying to say is it's better to be ready than not. Because you see it on the news all the time na the people are not ready. Siguro overkill na yung mga sinasabi ko, yung mga binabanggit ko hindi realistic for every single person. But you can scale that down naman eh. Pag sinabi kong kailangan nyo ng isang 5-gallon jug for each person, then gawin yung isang 5-gallon jug for every 2 to 3 people. But you have to be really strict in rationing it. Or sa pagkain, you have to be really strict in rationing it. Yung clothes, yung Maria yan, given na po dapat yan. You should not be caught off guard. When it comes, dapat ready na kayo. Pag sinabing likas, likas na. Kung sinabing akyat, akyat na. Huwag niyo pong hintayin na kayo yung tatangayin sa baha, or kayo yung nilipad ng hangin. May mga video po diyan na binabaklas nila yung rehas ng bintana nila kasi andyan na yung rumaragasang flash flood. Huwag niyo pong hintayin sa ganun. Kailangan ready na kayo. Kailangan mayroon na kayong hagdanan kahit gumawa kayo ng panandaliang hagdanan para makaakyat na kayo. And gumawa kayo ng temporary na bubong sa ibabaw. Temporary na bubong sa ibabaw ng bubong. Para po hindi po kayo ma-expose sa araw, hindi kayo ma-dehydrate. It's gonna be really, kasi some of these areas like in Cebu, a few days later hindi pa rin po humuhupa yung tubig. Hindi sila makababa. There are some areas in Bulacan na hanggang ngayon hindi pa rin po humuhupa ng tuluyan yung tubig. Nagbabangka pa rin sila sa mga karasada nila. So, kailangan po nating maging ready sa mga ganong klaseng sitwasyon. Regardless of what has happened or what your barangay's history is, kailangan niyo po maging ready. Okay? So, I'm going to stop the video here for now for this situation. And I'm going to go on to another topic in the next video. So hopefully magstay po kayo kasi ayaw ko pong masyadong mahaba itong video na to. Even though it's already long, it's like 30 something minutes. But anyway, if you have any questions as far as like preparedness and what to do, what to get, please don't hesitate po na magtanong, and I could probably guide you on what to do and where to get these items. And we could just have a healthy discussion on these types of topics. And kung meron pa po kayong gusto makita, or if you want to pick on what I said, on what I've presented, kung meron po kayong mga ideas na gusto nyo i-share, share nyo lang po sa sa comment section sa baba, and hopefully mabasa po ng mga ibang mga mamamayan nito, because this is really important information. A lot of the citizens that are being caught off guard ay lack of information ang pong nila, ang kailangan nila. And again, this is not, you don't have to be spending money to do any of this. You don't have to. Everything can be procured locally and within your own household. Kailangan nyo lang pong, it just has to do with logistics. It just has to do with how to move things around and how to barter, how to procure other items. So yun lang po. I hope you guys are having a good day, and please subscribe, and please look out for the next video, which is coming immediately after this video. Okay, and bye-bye.